Let's get right into it. The Diablo 4 closed beta just recently concluded, and I have some interesting topics to discuss with you all and get your opinions as well on it. So, if you're a new player just starting out or someone returning to this series after a while, I also have a few tips to share that have assisted with some of the players across the beta. And additionally, I'll be sharing some useful tools that can really improve the experience around builds and the map of Diablo 4 and make the gameplay just a little bit more efficient and easier as well. So let's dive in. So within the Diablo 4 beta, we're limited to level 25. We only saw 3 classes in the closed beta, but we are seeing the Druid and Necromancer coming up in the open beta, so it's going to be fun to have a look at that. But impression so far within Act 1 and level 25 has been, first, from a main story point of view. In my personal opinion, it's been absolutely awesome. It's exactly what you would expect from a Diablo franchise game. Very dark, very gory. The voice acting in the game especially was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I was actually I enjoyed it so much that when we actually started doing the blood petals and memories, where we got to see them on the screen rather than having cutscenes, I was actually a bit disappointed that we weren't going to go into another cutscene and see more that way. And just coming on to cutscenes, were absolutely fantastic in this game. The biggest thing for me was I actually got to see my character a significant amount within the cutscene itself as well. So that was pretty fun to see from that side of things. When it comes to the complexity of the game, it's pretty clear even within Act 1 up to level 25 in the beta that they're going and aiming for a more casual audience. So compared to something like Path of Exile, this game is much easier to play, much easier to spec talent points and get new abilities. And if you want to refund all your abilities and go into a different set of abilities that, for example, you transition from bow to dagger or something like that, it's very quick and easy to do compared to a lot of the other games from that side. So there's pros and cons that come with that, and I think that's okay. This just means that from a casual point of view, you don't have to look up a build guide, follow everything step by step and never deviate. Pretty simple to jump from one to another, aim for a certain ability, and build everything on your character towards that. They're obviously going to have to work quite hard from a retention point of view, just because if you're removing that level of complexity, it does mean more people can play the game, and also the entrance of newer players further down the line is a lot easier when compared to things like Path of Exile, where sometimes it's almost impossible unless the new player is following a build guide point to point. But when it comes to retention and season by season, then that's going to be the thing to watch for, like what's going to keep us playing after a couple of weeks and what's going to have us returning for the next season and the next season after that. Power scaling is another area of contention. So I actually didn't notice this until much later in the game, but for example, as you're leveling up in the world, as you're going from like level 20 to 21, all the monsters in the zone are going from 20 to 21 too. It does sometimes give you a little bit of impression that you're actually not getting any more powerful. It doesn't feel like you're making that much progress, so that's a little bit of a negative. And for example, if you're out in the open world and you're a level 20, someone else is level 10, you're fighting the same roughly the same monsters in the same event, then technically, even though you're a higher level, you have better gear and newer abilities, the lower level technically could actually be doing more damage than you. So it's a slightly weird feeling that you do feel as you bump into to randoms out and about. Let me know about this one, guys, just because it's a little bit divisive, and I'm still on the fence quite a bit around it. Because number one, I actually really do like the idea that you can at a later level go back to a zone that you were struggling with or a boss you couldn't do and just absolutely crushing them. It feels fantastic sometimes, but at the same time, with the power scaling, it does mean that the game is more difficult. It's a little bit more fairer when different levels are playing together with each other, and may add to the longevity of the game too, but I'm still very much on the fence. What do you guys think on this one? There is actually a world boss in the game, and I think they're going to be introducing some more as well before the finalization of the game itself. And the world boss is pretty fun to do, so you do it with 10 to 15 people. You are fairly zoomed out, so you do have to be quite on your feet, and your movement does feel a little bit slow just because you're so far zoomed out, but it gives you a much more epic feel to the actual fight itself. The boss itself is pretty difficult. Did manage to kill it, but to be honest, it one-shotted me every single time I didn't move out one of its attacks. So if you don't know the choreographed attacks from the boss, or you hesitate to get off your one big ability, you are going to die and you're going to be running back quite a lot. Saying that though, it was actually pretty fun. I am glad they've introduced it to the game. It was nice to see a lot of other people in the same space rather than just standing around in town. And the legendary loot that drops off it was pretty nice as well. Overall, I'm really happy with world bosses. I hope they put a lot more in, and I hope it spawns enough that it's like they're not always up, but at the same time too, if you only play for a couple of hours, you're not always missing it. It's really fun. It's nice to have everyone in one spot. I'm definitely hoping to see a lot more. They do have a lot of mechanics they could pull from, like D2 or D3. That would be really fun to have as a world boss as well. So the first tool on our list is the interactive map made by the team over at purediablo.com. So this interactive map, number one, it only shows what we've currently seen in the beta around Act 1. But within this interactive map, we can actually see the main storyline missions, all the side quests too, so if you're a completionist, you can see them all here, make sure you haven't missed them all. We can also see those Ultra or Liliths too, so you're not having to run around and constantly find them. Of course, if you do want to explore the map, and I highly encourage it because it's really fun, they're fantastic, go ahead. But if you do want to make sure, for example, that you've discovered every tiny little cellar, which are basically singular murder rooms, so very quick and easy to do, then you can actually come in here and look at this map. Alternatively, if you just want to make sure you've cleared out all the dungeons at the same time, because you get rewards for clearing them out for the very first time, then you can actually see them from this map. And great resource tool. It's going to be expanded quite a lot once we move beyond Act 1, and it's going to be extremely helpful once we move on to the larger map. Second really cool tool is actually one built by Maximus on the Diablo subreddit, so give this guy some love. Without even being able to play the beta, he's created this really cool build calculator. So if you are too eager and you can't wait for the open beta to come out, or you want to plan your builds out between now and the actual final release of the game, you can actually come in here and build your stats out in the calculator as you want. We've even got the Paragon board, or at least what we know of them, at the top here too. We know they're going to be rotatable as well, but this is a good way of, as we get more and more information, hopefully he'll build it out a little bit more, and we'll be able to start putting together various different builds that we're used to seeing on things like Path of Exile. So a few tips if you haven't played the Diablo series before or haven't in a while. The first tip is you can actually drop a pin on the map. So within Path of Exile, for example, if you're used to that game, you can normally have the map open, have it transparent, and you can see where you're going as you actually move around the map. You can't do that in D4, so you need to open up your map, drop a pin, come back out to the screen, and then the mini-map in the top right will have a line taking you where you need to go as you're running around the map. Another great tip that seemed to be asked about quite a lot, in our Discord at least, was basically after you've cleared a dungeon, an easy way to get out is to open up the map, click on the entrance, and it will let you out the dungeon. Alternatively, you can actually use the emote wheel to let you out as well. And this can just sometimes be a lot nicer than teleporting out if you don't necessarily want to go straight back to home base. Maybe you're like halfway between an objective you're going to, and you've decided to pop into the dungeon, but you don't want to teleport all the way back and lose all that progress. It is a little bit unusual that on the very first dungeon, they kind of have that rope, and you climb out of that rope, because I was actually looking for that rope or a stone to click on after I finished the dungeon. They really should, within the game, actually show you these tips about how to exit. I mean, they have us thanking the shrine and cheering on the soldiers, so having one as well to show you how to exit a dungeon really does make sense. So I'm not sure why they haven't shown us in the game. Hopefully it's something they add in before the game goes final. In conclusion, I'm just so happy they're making Diablo 4. I've been waiting for it for a very long time. It's here. I'm pretty happy with what I've seen with Act 1 across the 3 classes. All 3 classes seem to be pretty fun to play. They've each got their own big attacks. The big attacks feel like they've got weight behind them. It's really fun to use them in conjunction with each other. Great to bump into other people in the world as well. It's pretty fun. And overall, the game is pretty obvious at this stage that they're aiming at a more casual and wider audience than, for example, that compared to something like Path of Exile. But to be honest, that's okay too. It doesn't have to be a carbon copy of each game. It's going to be different people like different things. Maybe my opinion will change when we start to see more of the nightmare dungeons, but overall I think for a casual side of things it's definitely going to be D4, more complex. It's going to be part of Exile, and it's going to be interesting to see what they actually introduce in later seasons that actually have us keep coming back. That's it for the video, guys. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Anything I missed or anything special I should look out for in the open beta coming up, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, have a great day.